Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat episode 552, featuring an interview with Richard Murtland, the developer of Splintered. This is a one-of-a-kind RPG that takes randomization to the next level. We dive into the creative process, the balance between chaos and playability, what makes Splintered such a refreshing experience, from gameplay mechanics and player feedback to upcoming features like new game modes and the Japanese translation. Lots of insights here into the indie scene and other games like this, and roguelikes and much, much more. I think you'll really like this this chat. So without further ado, here is Mr. Richard Murtland.
Yes, are we live? Is this?
Yeah, we're good to go. Millions of people, Richard. Millions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hopefully we'll have millions of questions to work through as well.
like the hairstyle there. That's a sweet look. Kind of a how do you describe that? Kind of a pompadour? What would they call that?
Something like that. Really, I'm just trying to hide the hairline that's pulling back on me. So I just kind of try to get it over there, and
you got to just do this kind of thing, right?
Oh, that works. That works. How you been?
Pretty good. I've been. You might be able to make my life a lot better, Richard. I've been playing this game, Splintered. Yeah, there it is. You heard of this one?
Yeah, no, I've
got a
pretty familiar. Pretty familiar.
Because I'm really stuck. Talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, tell me, how'd all this come to pass? Let me see if I can show the Steam page here. Mm-hmm. For those that might possibly be so unenlightened as to not know about this game.
Yeah, so essentially the idea incepted back in 2018, right? But to really get into that, I think we got to start with kind of like what the grand experiment of Splintered is trying to be, because it's incredibly ingrained around the concept of randomizers. So are you familiar with like randomizers or randomizer mods at all?
Unless you're talking about Rogue, or I don't know. I've a little bit around with Unity. They've got seems like there was a tool you could use to randomly create a world.
Yeah, like
like a procedural generated.
Yeah, and with especially with Rogue, there's a lot of very similar DNA, right? Like we have roguelikes. Lots of indie devs are making roguelikes, and they're great. It's part of one of my favorite subgenres of game, and so randomizers have a lot of that same DNA, but what the way that randomizers kind of like came about, at least as far as I'm aware, is people wanted to make popular mods for the games that they loved, right? So we're talking like, classic Zelda game, maybe Pokemon, Dragon Warrior, one of my influences, has a great randomizer, and Metroid, stuff like that. You also have later on now randomizers that have really caught hold with modern games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring and things like that. But as far as I'm aware, the original creation of this was for these older types of games. And so essentially people wanted to make these mods that would mess with the game's files and create kind of a new version of the game where you're swapping around all the items. Sometimes the world gets replaced with a procedurally generated world, and it breeds a lot of replayability and new experiences into older games that people just really want to play. They probably played these games 10 times over, and they're like, oh man, what if there was a new way to play these games? So that's kind of the concept of the randomizer coming from these mods. And that's how I was like, wait a second. what if we just made a game built from the ground up to support one of these things, and what would happen? Like, what would be the possibilities there, right?
Be clever. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be much fun once you've played something a million times and know exactly where every part or whatever is. So
Yeah,
this idea, you're going to never get the same exact gameplay every time, right? That's a good.
for sure.
Are you familiar with the Dragon or Daggerfall, Elder
Uh,
Scrolls Daggerfall?
a little bit. I think my first foray was with Morrowind, but yeah,
Oh, sure, sure.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Daggerfall. I'm pretty sure I got this right. It uses a lot of procedural generation, but it's almost like crazy stuff happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember, there's like a lady next to a pipe organ, and she's complaining about a saber-toothed tiger downstairs. What the? Yeah, I remember. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've looked at my Dungeons and Desktops book. Have you seen?
Uh-huh. No, haven't had a chance to. What's
Highly recommend it. No. Well, reason I bring it up is not just to plug it, but there's a part in there where I talk about the sort of stuff we're talking about now,
hmm
procedural generation and all that. And I argued back then. I don't know if I would. I'd have to think about if my thinking has evolved on this, but it's sort of to me a roguelike, a procedural generated game leverages the power of the computer.
hmm
I mean, it's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing that kind of thing, that to me is a more innovative use of the fact that it's on a computer platform than just trying to copy exactly like a tabletop role playing game. You catch my drift?
Yeah, yeah, for,
Like
for
it's
for sure. Because like
program.
there's only so many permutations you can make, and and then you get some dice rolling involved, and it's like, well, what if we had 2 billion potential seeds that could go and populate all this stuff and really change things up? Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you'd mentioned Dragon Quest. I'm going to show the game here in a minute, folks.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I get Richard to give me some tips because I'm kind of flummoxed. I'm flummoxed.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Uh,
Yeah, no, Dragon Quest 1 is
Dragon
kind of when
Quest.
yeah, yeah. Dragon Warrior is what I grew up with. And it was one of my first games, one of my favorite games. And when I got around to to go back to your previous question about the origin, right? So now that we have covered, randomizers, I can kind of touch on that. It was 2018. I'm playing a ton of randomizers, and there's this friend that I game with all the time, and I'm like, dude, I just played, the Zelda randomizer and like just all of these different things, and just had a ball with it. I was like, this is something that is so fresh and so new on all these classics. And his response was like, oh, okay, like that's pretty cool. He hadn't ever played a lot of these older games, right? So then I was like, well, to get him to see kind of like some of the beauty that's happening with the randomizer, I'm going to have to show him. Oh yeah, the Ocarina of Time, great randomizer there. And I was like, so to get him to experience this, it's like I'm now giving him two homework assignments. I'm like, well, first you got to play the randomizer, but to play the randomizer, you got to go and spend your weekend playing through this game that you'll probably enjoy, but maybe not, right? So that was when I was like, oh, okay, this is the concept that I want to try to drive. I want to be able, like, in the same way that somebody could give somebody else Slay the Spire and say, hey, this might not mean anything to you, but this is a roguelike deck builder and you're going to love it. I want to be able to give Splintered to somebody and be like, okay, this might not mean anything to you, but this is a randomizer game and you're going to love it, right? And just have that be a nice contained experience to dip their toes into the randomizer. But to do that, I needed to make a very fun game to start with, right? Step one of making a randomizer game is like, well, first you just have to make a really good game that people enjoy playing. Easy, right? It's like, oh, geez, what am I doing? So that kind of had me pump the brakes a little bit after I'd prototyped things out. I was like, all right, let's kind of let this sit And as you know, I never let that idea go. I was like, I know I can do something here, but I just got to come up with that fun, kind of bite-sized game that's not too small, not too big, that's perfect to then be randomized, right? I love Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior had a great randomizer as well, and I had a lot of fun playing it. And I was like, you know what? I've got an idea on how I can go back to this 1v1 style of combat, because after Dragon Warrior, you have like Dragon Warrior 2 and Final Fantasy 1. Suddenly all of our RPG parties are, 3 members or 4 members. Like the traditional 1v1 combat got left behind almost immediately, right? And I was like, let's go back to that and try to see what modern design can do to something like that. And you'll see that with some of the equipment and the talents and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that ties back into what we're probably about to jump into here, which is one of the bigger influences being 8-bit RPGs, and especially as such, Dragon Warrior. So.
A Dragon Warrior, and I think wasn't this the one that was inspired by one of the Ultimas?
Yeah, it was kind of their, as far as I remember, it was their way of packaging a game like Ultima, but on a nice, like with a nice bow on a console, right? So it could be enjoyed by the masses. And just a lovely, simple game. But
influence. I didn't know. Yeah, you can definitely see the influence here, but yeah, I think I like the direction we're going there. We're just keeping it a little simpler in some ways. I don't always want to have to sit down and take 2 hours to create a character and figure out, like, I think the thing I hate the most in a modern RPG is when I get a weapon or a new piece of armor or something and I can't figure out which one's better. Like there's so many things and I'm just like, oh, you got this and this is more of that, but less of this. But sometimes you just kind of want to is comfort food, I mean, is that a way to describe this?
Yeah, I
I'm
think
playing
so.
your game,
Yeah.
just kind of, whatever is bothering me or I'm stressed out about, that just sort of goes away, right? And I'm just kind of in the game world.
Yeah.
I like that sort of zone you can get into.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake sometimes just to keep putting stuff in just because you can.
For sure. I think striking that simplicity, especially like if you have a bunch of characters in your party, but it's like, okay, realistically, the 4th character, all they ever do is just heal the other party members. Like we can almost automate their role in this. And yeah, so it's like, all right, you've got one character, you can attack, you can use some of your spells, an item, or run away. It's just that is kind of the interface of the game. Now, I will admit though, you might have a tough time when it comes to which equipment should I pick, because I have added a decent amount of complexity in terms of the skill builds and kind of class builds. It has like this flexible class system through the equipment, and that's kind of one of the highlights of the game, because you're still making simple decisions. You only have 4 pieces of equipment to equip, but each piece of gear comes with usually about anywhere from 2 to 4 abilities. And that kind of defines how you're like, you still have a simple task ahead of you in terms of, do you attack, use a spell, run away? But the way that you attack changes. Like one of the abilities is like, okay, well, you're in battle, you're going to need to heal. And so one of the paladin abilities, Smite, whenever you heal, it takes a percentage of how much you've healed for and deals that as additional damage on your next attack. But you have to attack immediately after, right? So it just adds these little grooves to kind of like that simplistic styled gameplay, and adds some more things to consider as you're navigating this 1v1 style combat.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm so glad I have you on because I think you've already started to clear up some of my confusion. But I was kind of impressed with this idea of the equipment leveling up. And like the more you use it, you start to unlock abilities through the items. I don't. That seems. Did that you come up with that, or is that something from another game? I mean, I don't think I've seen anything.
So I mean, certainly the first thing that's coming to mind is Final Fantasy 9, where you have equipment that the abilities are on the equipment, and when you use the equipment, you get them right away. And then as you get ability points, they level up, and then you permanently get those abilities. Like that's like the first thing that jumps to mind to where I'm sure there has to be some other game out there that's doing something very similar to this. But yeah, it was mostly just kind of designed out of what I thought needed to happen, to where it's like I want there to be interesting class abilities and texture to the items that you get. And I also want this concept of investing into an item. If you've started with this dagger at level 1, this dagger, you should be able to invest in it, and it should be able to carry you to the end game. And in fact, just about every, not quite all, but just about every piece of equipment is end game viable if you have the right tuning of your build through other pieces of equipment and things like that. So
I like that idea too, and it makes a lot of sense. You imagine a real life warrior is not going to throw away a sword that they're intimately familiar with, like it's part of their arm, just for this other sword that's a little bit more valuable. I mean,
yeah. Where did all of these magical items come from? It's like, well, they were invested into, right? They have a history. So you get to build some of that history with your character.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I was thinking there are games that come to mind like Might and Magic 6, one of my favorites, but the idea there is you would learn like an axe skill or a sword skill, and then any sword you pick up. But this one's more like focused on a particular item. I guess maybe you could compare it to like games where you have slots for items like gemstones. You can sort of upgrade an item that way. But anyway, I like this idea. It's your dagger. You found it. You love that dagger. You unlock abilities on it. I found a guy who can even give you some more powers on your weapons, for a little bit of gold. So I've got my stuff leveled up all the way.
That tells me about where you're at. I'm like, okay, good. Seems like you're enjoying your time with chapter 1.
Yeah. You want me to go ahead and bring up the game here?
Yeah, if you want to for a bit, that'd be.
Yeah, I'll show you
what's going on.
You can critique my somewhere I'm messing up. Okay, let's see. Okay, are we good there? Do you see?
Yep. Looks. I can see that. I think I'm picking myself up a little bit on the mic, but I think that's good now. Yeah, we're good.
I don't hear anything except for the game. Is it the game music too loud for you? Is it okay?
No, I think it's all right.
I do have the right game here.
Yes, yeah. This is us. We've got the right version. We're good.
Okay, so I'm only 9% done. That'd be right.
Those percentages might need some adjustment. That it will jump up quite a bit once you finish chapter 1. So.
Okay, I think I can only do chapter 1 for the moment.
Yep. Okay, so we're right at the end here, yeah.
Okay, so I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong here.
Okay.
So I'm level 18. First of all, am I even at a good level to be trying this?
So I think so. I think you're at a good level, but 20 is kind of like the almost nothing should be able to stop you. So when I look at this at a glance, I'm looking at your MP and I'm thinking we might have been able to get to this part a little bit healthier to be ready, because the MP is kind of your ability to endure your expedition, right? Your ability to heal and bring yourself through. And so if we could have had just a touch more MP at this point, then I'd feel pretty confident about our chances, depending on what our build is.
I found things that will give me more health. Is there some equivalent for mana?
So there isn't, and this might be a little bit of a controversial decision, but part of that is because kind of like I'd mentioned, like, you know, MP is the lifeblood of your excursion, right? So it's kind of like, if you know, in Dungeons and Dragons, right? If you're out of spells and you're like, oh man, we could really use a long rest. That's kind of like your MP bar, that you want to try to, you know, preserve the most of when you're getting ready for an encounter like this.
Yeah, so that explains a lot. I tried to run from some enemies just so I could avoid losing all my health and having to heal back up, but that's kind of hit or miss. All right, let's take a look at the equipment here. I know there's a Ludriel's shield. I don't have because it's like 10,000 gold, but
Yep. So the kite shield is a fan favorite because of the splashback damage. People really enjoy that.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Retribution there is a big fan. And to be honest, Ledriel's armor. Okay, I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't know when this will come out, but I've got a patch coming that's going to buff Ledriel's armor a little bit. It's a little bit undertuned, and part of that is because like Ledriel's armor is great, and it's what your father Ledriel sends you after to go and get. But some of the builds in the game with some of the other equipment that you can get end up being a bit better when everything is kind of working in concert. The Ledriel gear is great, kind of like in a vacuum. But once you get all the synergies of some of the other gear working together, they can be a pretty potent build when you get all that stuff going.
What kind of weapon should I have instead of the?
So Ledriel's sword, I think is great. I think that's a pretty strong way to go into it. And then the Guardian plate is maxed out, so that is good. And so yeah, I would say that like our odds at beating the boss here are pretty good. And if we had maybe another maybe another 30 MP, I think that we would be almost like a favorite to win.
Well, I could teleport, but if I teleport, where's it going to put me?
So teleporting will send you back to the main castle. So when you teleport from here, it'll send you outside the dungeon, and then when you teleport back, it'll send you to the main castle. This is kind of what I was talking about with trying to design this game around a randomizer, right? It's like I purposely made so like as you're discovering here, chapter 1 is kind of just like a whole 8-bit RPG, right? Like you're having this kind of start to finish experience, but I tried to condense it. So the map is a little bit condensed. I think the time that had showed there was maybe around 3 hours, if that sounds about right. And that's kind of the average that I was going for completing that first quest, because it's supposed to be substantial, but then also supposed to hand you off to the randomizer, which is waiting in chapter 2. Yeah, and then the talents here. This is another great thing to look at because you can really tune in a build here. And I see you have Draconic, which is definitely not a requirement for the final boss, but it really helps as you've probably figured out.
Yeah, I got a couple. I need to find a purple guy done like that. I thought this was a neat mechanic here, by the way. The talents, the way you set this up. So you have to find all these different critters to kill. So that gives you a reason to look for stuff. Oh, this must be a really good one because it takes what? What am I? I wonder what that is. You don't even know what it is. A little mystery.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. So this is really interesting because this mechanic was kind of like after I had decided to try to make some sort of interesting movement on the 1v1 combat. The first thing that came was the equipment and all the equipment abilities. And then the next thing was this talent system. I was like, whenever I play these games, I'm always looking to kind of like min-max things. And so for grinding, that means like I'm just probably going to find the best experience per hour that's safe and then just beat up that thing for, a while. Splinter doesn't have too much grinding, fortunately. But yeah, there's some stuff that we can do. In fact, speaking of grinding, just real quick, I noticed that you have 6,500 gold. So another thing that you can do, did you find the experience trainer by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So dumping
like 650 gold or something like that to get 250 XP.
Yes. So that ends up being a way to, if you do get to the end and you're like, you know what, I want to get an extra level or so. In fact, there may or may not be an achievement if you get to level 20. That's not required, but some people might like to. In fact, one of the reasons why I added that achievement was to be kind of like hey, so the achievements. I believe I called it power overwhelming, and the idea is like, hey, if you've hit level 20, like it's probably time to go and try to knock out the boss there. But the idea with the experience trainer was to help if you wanted to grind, speed up that grind a bit, because now you can turn your gold into experience and kind of expedite that process a bit.
Yeah, I noticed I got this talent that'll give me more XP.
Mm-hmm.
The enemies here are so tough. I just thought I just survived.
Yeah, no, in this last dungeon, especially making it to this final fight healthy, running is a great option, right? It's a really good.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna survive long. Oh my god, a golden dragon duckling! Where did you come up with these monsters?
It was like, all right, dragons are clearly a big part of the game, and so I was like, what's like a cute little guy that you just would fit in one of these types. So different games have their kind of like iconic enemies or things like that, and I was like, what if there was just like a dragon duck? And so I started just drafting some stuff up, and I was like, "This is kind of cool. I dig it." As far as it's like, what should that basic enemy be? This worked pretty well. So, yeah, no, these elder dragons are nasty.
Yeah, even with the fire protection, it's still just obliterating me. I tried to sleep them. That doesn't work very well.
So these are pretty resilient. They're kind of like the. They're not a boss, but they're essentially the apex predator of the enemy list. So they're pretty resilient stuff. The best thing that you can do is kind of like what you did, where the first one that you defeat and unlocking that draconic talent to lower their fire damage, that ends up being one of the best ways to mitigate the future encounters a little bit. Yeah, and then definitely just like when your goal is to bring down our final boss here, running is a great strategy, just because they can be a resource hog for sure.
Oh, here we go. We got to fight this one. Yeah. Should I keep trying to run, or should I?
Yeah. I would keep trying to run.
I'm gonna run out of my greater min leaves.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, there isn't a way to refresh your mana other than sleeping at an inn, but by stacking up on a bunch of greater mend leaves, then you'll be able to extend your travels a little bit further, because you won't have to spend all that mana on healing.
Okay, I think I'm gonna. Oh, good.
Yeah, these little guys are all ready.
Okay, should I go for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's maybe a chance. Like if she ends up attacking a little bit more than she does the tail swipe, then we might have a chance, but we'll just kind of have to see here.
Okay. Spell first or attack?
So let's see. We brought in the Guardian Plate and Retribution and the Paladin's Tomb. So yeah, I think just open up. She's pretty resistant to everything, sleep inclined. So yeah, it's just start swinging away. Oh yeah, and we're pumping out some serious damage. You've got a lot of defense that is also going to help you against these attacks as well. And that Retribution is just pummeling.
Oh,
Okay, so
greater heal time.
oh yeah, it's kind of a check on where we're at in the damage phase, and yeah, greater heal is what we want.
What is ward?
She has kind of. Go ahead.
I don't know what ward does exactly.
So ward you want to use outside of battle, and that will reduce encounters that you're kind of too powerful for. So it just kind of stops them from getting in the way, and lets you go after stronger encounters or just have kind of less encounters overall.
I don't think we've got a way to know how healthy she still is, right?
We don't, but I think we're in a pretty good spot now. So I don't want to backseat games. I'm sorry.
My heart is being like, oh my god, I'm actually gonna be able to beat this thing. I've tried about 4 times. I got to this point and then died. Oh come! Oh my god!
That's it. We were a bit stronger than I thought. That was actually pretty smooth. Yeah.
1,000 points. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. See, you're good luck with you. Oh my god, am I going to fight this guy? What happens
No
here?
spoilers. No spoilers.
Fight. Ooh, wow. As you reach for the artifact, the shrouded figure cracks a smile. The world starts to shift beneath your feet. You're too late. The Aidma's artifact has been activated. Everything blurs. Oh, I see what you're doing here. Get it? Oh, wow. Can you believe this? I got you on the show, and then I swear to God, I've tried like 5 times and just, I don't know. So when I start this chapter, what happens?
Well, I think let's start it up and see.
Oh, that looks more like you there, huh? Select your appearance. Richard.
Now I should have added some sort of a special, plus 10 strength and dexterity bonus or something if you came in with Richard, but I suppose that'd be unfair.
It'd be Richard Garriott too.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Maybe 20 plus 20 strength and dex then.
Well, the first time I went with health and strength, so maybe I could mix it up a little bit here and already get some variety.
Yeah, every build is viable for sure.
So if you wanted to be a magic guy, what would be just go health and magic?
So health and magic is probably the safest option, but I've seen a lot of people like health and dexterity. Dexterity helps you run from battles. It gives you a little bit more defense. It's pretty good. There's also, so I noticed that in the last run you had the Starlight Sword, and that can make a pretty interesting build with magic and strength as well. So there's definitely options for sure.
What would you recommend then?
Yeah, I think magic dex is great, or magic health is probably a pretty good way to go.
Base proficiency is okay. Enemy has started to unravel the secrets of Bethesda's artifact. The reckless use of the artifact's power has splintered our world. So really, the chapter 1 was just the setup for this.
You got a whole game in chapter 1. How's that?
Pretty straightforward. The world you once knew is no more. You'll have to use your wit and seek every advantage. Oh. So this will be randomized now.
Yeah, so I didn't see what had picked up in that first item. Do you happen to remember what that first treasure had?
I think it was a mentally
Menly
Heal.
shucks. Yeah. So if you go and talk to your twin sister, I think that's a pretty good thing to do in chapter 2.
Our foes seem even more dangerous than ever, yet the townsfolk act like nothing's changed. It seems we're the only ones not oblivious to the matter. Use it, sell it. Oh, she gave me something. Blessed Hallmark. What is that? It's armor.
Yep.
That's 8. Blessed. Increase healing from spells. Oh, that's going to be great. Oh, all of them are healing.
Yeah, so Smite has a little bit of healing synergy there, and then you got Overheal too, which is also very suspiciously very, very powerful.
When healing in battle, you can overheal. Oh, that is, yeah, this is good. I like the way this actually changes up your strategy. Because now you're like, well, I can heal and then attack, heal and attack.
And I've seen some wild stuff, like there have been a few people that have started to speedrun the game, and I've seen the Assassin's Dagger with the Paladin's breastplate, and it's like, well, you can do that. There's nothing stopping you. So they have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, I thought I had a magic key.
So the key is kind of a requirement to get you out of that first room. Yeah. So of those first 3 chests, you'll always be guaranteed one of them will be a key. And that's just to kind of, prevent you from, soft locking. It's like, oh, okay, all right, I cannot progress in this seed. So yeah, there's little checks like that throughout the game to make sure that you're never going to get too tripped up.
Oh, yeah, this has changed a lot.
Yeah.
What is
and now we've got our randomized overworld.
Surrendale. Yeah, so this wasn't here before. Or was it? What was the town close by?
The closest one is Edelin, and then you had Ninevos a little bit to your west. And this is kind of like one of the mid to late game towns. And yeah, like it happens to be right next door this time.
Interesting. So I probably won't be able to afford a weapon.
Well, I think that first chest you had gave you 500 gold. So
okay, I made the mistake the first time I played this. I bought the armor. I didn't have enough for any weapons, so I had to have unarmed combat. That really slowed me down.
Did you see the Brawler's bracers by chance?
Yeah, I bought those. And played with them.
Yeah. Yeah, those were almost designed specifically for that situation of, I don't have a weapon, what do I do? And it's like, well, here's a 10 gold accessory that'll make sure that your unarmed attacks are a little bit stronger. And I ended up adding a third ability to it. So if you want to take unarmed combat all the way to the end of the game, you can do that. You just have to invest a lot into the Brawler's bracers.
What should I do? Get the magic wand? Or?
So if you don't mind a little backseating, you have a couple interesting decisions here. The magic wand is a great choice because it'll guarantee some damage. The other thing that I would do is your character's stats are actually randomized. So you could look at your status and see what your current strength is at. So we're huge on dexterity, but our strength is kind of at a standard level. So the magic wand would be great to give us a little oomph in our early battles. But remember that the experience trainer we were talking about?
Yeah.
Because you have 500 gold, you could go and pop that once. And because you're level 1, 250 experience would be a huge advancement of levels, right? So you kind of have a few decisions here because you could also pick up, the magic wand and some items. You could maybe get some torches to throw. Additionally, we're in Sarandel, so we have access to keys. So we could go pop open the keys and go see what's in the treasure chest back at the castle. This is kind of one of the cool things about the randomizer is unraveling it is completely up to you once you start to learn some of the intricacies of the game. There's lots of decisions to make, and that's part of what makes it fun.
No, I like that key idea.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely.
I don't think
I
those
think.
keys are all that expensive. Oh gosh.
Oh,
Yeah, this
I
is all.
probably could have designed that exit a little bit differently, but
Oh, there could be a little thing that pops up and says, "Are you sure you want to leave?" Ah!
right.
Oh my god! Are you sure you want to leave? But then you got to click that every single time. Oh my goodness. I should guess. I wonder if I could get my Switch, those classic Nintendo controllers to work with this. Because I'm using like this Xbox thing.
Okay. Do you have like the one of the 8-bit doos? Is that or is that the Switch Pro controller?
Here, I can show you what it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks just like a little regular Nintendo controller.
Okay.
There's a couple. There's like that one.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The Super Nintendo one. I don't know if they
Who,
work.
do you know who makes those?
I thought Nintendo made them.
Oh, okay. I might have to dig into that because I could figure out what's like how they're being read and see if I can get some of that support in. Most stuff works pretty well masking as an Xbox controller, but you never know. Sometimes there's a few discrepancies there. So.
Well, when you want the full experience,
Oh yeah.
And get a couple or just one or two. What do you think?
I would suggest getting maybe 3 or 4 if that treasure room has some really good stuff. The townsfolk will restock their wares, so we can go raid that treasury a few times and kind of see what it has in it.
Oh, I don't have my protection potion anymore.
We're gonna have to find that. Yeah.
I forgot about that. I never was able to find a ranger either. There's something. I saw it mentioned a couple times. There's like a ranger.
Oh, the master hunter.
Master hunter. Yeah, where the heck is that guy?
So,
Man, I don't want to spoil it.
yeah. It's they're in a town, and there's what I'll say, because this is part of the NPC hint, right? Is that they're playing a game of hide and seek, and you might want to have some way to detect invisibility to for sure find them. But if you search around for them, you should be able to maybe bump into an invisible person and see what they got going on.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Now we could go ahead and buy another key, I guess, here.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a very smart decision because I got like 1,000 gold. Who's this guy?
Oh.
Ah!
Yeah. So that is the jail, and the tile keeping him in is kind of the tile that's that just kind of kept you out there. But
yeah, I guess it could get me before because I had the terrain thing.
Oh yeah. You probably had the protection potion already the last time that you had.
Am I not gonna be able to get my chest?
So you should be able to. It either does. I'm trying to. It either does 10 or 20 damage. I guess we're about to find out. Okay, good. Yeah.
Oh, but it took like. Well, I still got 1,000.
Yeah. So it kind of it takes half of your gold and lets you it removes half of your gold and then it lets you get half of that back. So you can essentially recover half of what you've lost. Yeah. Oh, and then the swamp got us. Now, fortunately,
God, I didn't do this bad the first time.
Well, the randomizer, it has rewards. For instance, in chapter 1, we would never have this much access to this much gold and keys like right off the bat. So this is a huge boon. But at the same time, the castle spawned right next to a swamp, so we've got extra danger, kind of every step of the way there too.
Yeah, you know what it is. I forgot that I have so few hit points.
Yeah.
Like I'm already.
And I think.
Yeah, 10
if we went health build, we'd probably be at like 18 or so, and that would help us out for some of these tiles as well.
Okay, so I got a little money now. So what are we thinking? You think I should get some training?
Training, one burst of training is going to put in a lot of levels, and the stat gain is randomized, so we never know what we're going to get for each level up. So we might have some juicy stats waiting for us.
Yeah, I would never think to do this. one hit point.
Yeah.
What else?
14 MP. If we had some spells. There we go.
Spell. Wait, how do I get to level 3? Oh,
so
he just gave me experience points. I'm going to level. Oh, I get it now. So it's not just one level.
He gave us 250 experience. So we are crushing, and we are learning all the spells. So this is going to be a very easy mage build, which we are primed to take advantage of with our MP. Yeah. So if you go ahead and look at your spell list real quick, we picked up quite a few.
Well, I'm gonna probably go to the end to get those hit points.
Oh yeah.
Greater. Oh, I already got greater. Oh wow. And the monsters don't scale with me, right?
Nope. They do not. So we'll.
Good man.
Yeah, but you will find some. If you wander too far from the castle, you'll get to the point where the monster spawns are completely random. I put in a little bit. It's too rough to make the monster spawns completely random just right out of the gates, because then you could just end up in an endless death loop. So the monsters start a little bit on the lighter side. You have some dragon ducks, some dragon ducklings. But once you get outside of kind of like an 8x8 grid around the castle, then anything could happen. We could run into some really nasty stuff, but that's part of the fun. You never know what you're going to get.
Did I buy the buckler, the shield?
So we have essentially infinite money at the moment, just because we happen to spawn next to Serendil and get the keys. So I would say, yeah, like let's just buy what we can.
And there's no limitation for getting a.
Yep. Yeah, and either the kite shield or the buckler. Evasion kind of goes a little bit unnoticed, but evasion is very powerful. And we did pick up dexterity, and we started with some pretty good dex stats. So the buckler would probably be a pretty good fit for what we have going on right now.
I like it. I don't think he's on necklaces. No, I don't.
No, so the equipment gets randomized as well. This guy could have had essentially anything for us, but we're gonna have to find another town and another shop to really maximize our build and get the exact pieces that we want.
Okay, gotta be careful. I don't think this purple stuff hurts me, right?
It does. Did we stay at an inn? What's our H? Okay, yeah. So we should be good. We should be good. I think we should be more worried about monsters at this point than some of that. Okay.
Oh, I don't have moonlight. Are these random spells you get too?
They are. So Magic Blast, I believe, comes at level 14. So we're way ahead of the curve in terms of Magic Blast, and that's a huge boon to break through powerful enemies. But like you saw, we don't have Moonlight yet, so we got to fish that out. You are guaranteed to learn all the spells by a certain level, but they're completely randomized. Other than that,
I found out you definitely want to buy torches.
For sure.
This little city here. Oh, there's some more chests. I got a torch.
Got a torch.
Protection potion. Oh, that's the thing I need to avoid all the. Oh.
Oh, I don't know.
No way. That'd be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, item protection potion. Now I can. Yeah, none of that stuff's going to hurt me anymore.
Yep. No, it's a very good quality of life improvement.
I like where you put it in the original chapter, because so annoyed by the terrain. You're like, oh god, and then finally, right about the time you just had it, you find that protection potion, and then it matters, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so cool.
And it makes a bit of thematic sense. So Geshermir has these mines, and it's being kind of overrun by this corruption and this swamp. And so the miners need protection potions to be able to do their work. Fortunately, they tucked one away for you, and it really helps.
This is a question. What would I want to do here? We were talking earlier about how the items are so easy. But yeah, I guess it's kind of, do I want to go more that mage build or more of a rogue?
So I will say that as far as Mage is concerned, the Mind Spring Robe's abilities are incredible. It's really powerful, especially you've got Conduit there. That's going to give you a ton of MP. And then Mental Torrent will look at how much max MP you have and then give your spells bonus magic damage based on that. And since we selected MP as one of our proficiencies, we'll have even more base MP to play with. So it makes you just this absolute mana powerhouse. That's quite powerful.
I kind of like that idea. Oh, no, oh. Okay, it's the Mind Spring. Oh, I gotta sell some stuff. No problem. I kind of hate to sell that halberd, but wait, go ahead. Sell it?
Yep. I think we...
Bob. Still got 144, but I don't think that's quite enough for the Mage Stone. Unless I sell the other thing. Okay, equip. So now I got a wand, a robe. I could just use this buckler for now, I suppose. But you think I should get the Mage Stone?
The Mage Stone is very powerful because if you go and look at its abilities, so Radiance is huge because there's a handful of enemies that have quite a bit of magic resistance. So when we really want that juicy magic blast to land, we want to pop them through with Radiance. And then the Mana Shield. Did you ever play like Diablo 2 sorceress type things?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You're gonna whenever you take lethal damage, it's gonna say nope and subtract 20 mana from you instead. So it's really good for getting through those powerful things. Yeah. And we're right here at the beginning of this seed, and already, I mean, this is a pretty potent mage that we've created thanks to what's happened a little bit with our randomizer. We're a little bit fortunate on this run because just blasting everything down. That's great.
Oh, probably not too far away from talents. Yeah, like I'm already got a bunch of those done. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Secret Sage as well. Bring me one of your father's friends. Okay, well, let me, oh my, well, this will be a good test.
Yeah.
I think Magic Blast will, you can't really silence them, right?
Nah, that's not going to do too much. You know, normally at level 6, this would be a fool's errand, but we have so much going for us with our natural stats, dexterity, the equipment bonuses. I think we'll be all right.
Better heal up.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh. Come on, blast him! Got him!
There we go.
Dragon already.
Oh, we got and then we get it. Yeah.
Successfully slain your first dragon. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted me to show while I got this up?
No, I think like this is a great demonstration of the randomizer because I think in a nutshell, anybody watching will clearly see, hey, this is what the game is all about, right? After chapter 1, you build up those base expectations, right? You were like, hey, this is the town that had the protection potion. Right. And this is the town that has, and what, starting out with a Blessed Hauberk, we would never. Magic Blast at level 3, but by setting up all those expectations in the base game, it then subverts them. And unfortunately, this was a pretty good seed. If anybody caught the seed ID when we were in pause. After you beat chapter 2, you unlock just the randomizer, and this lets you just play whatever seed you want. So anybody could go, excuse me, anybody could go and take that seed and play essentially the same experience that you just did, where you start with the Blessed Hauberk, those first 3 items, all those randomizations are going to be identical. So you can share seeds with friends and be like, well, this is what I did. Like I went with a mage build and I did this. And somebody else would be like, I was going for a crit build. I got all this magic stuff right away. But then at the end, pivoted and so on and so forth. So you get a nice little shared experience by being able to share those seeds around in the randomizer. So,
well, I remember back in the day, those games that would have a password for the save game, and you could find people's codes and or you could just mess with it, see what kind of weird you got. Yeah, I mean the replay value on that. I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, I just wish I'd have had this on my Amiga computer. Okay, let me. You got time for a few questions? People sent in. Got some.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think we covered this. They ask about randomization. Does it make games more fun? I think we could say yes. What's special about that? Yeah, this is.
I will say with the randomization, there is a such thing as too much randomization, right? So like one of the examples being right when you leave the castle. If the first thing that you encounter when you're level 1, no spells, no equipment, is like that green dragon that was a bit west of us, right? That's too much, right? There are lines of too much randomization, and once you've added way too much randomization, then the stories and the novelty kind of wear away. So in my opinion, you definitely want to be a little bit careful with what does or doesn't get randomized and where and when. And yeah, I think that's an important thing to be cognizant of when trying to design something. And that applies not just to randomizers, but like roguelikes. And you see this all over the place for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know if people really appreciate the point you're making. I appreciate the point you're making. But they hear randomizer and they think, oh, it's just completely random. Whereas no, there's a lot of finesse that has to go into that to result in something. Because if it was completely random, it just probably most of the time, it'd just be unplayable, the thing it came up with. I mean, it just puts you right in the middle of a little tile surrounded by water or something like that.
Yeah.
You couldn't play. So yeah, it's a lot more difficult, I think, than people realize.
For sure. And with that, so the game is in early access, and part of that is because this is such an experimental concept, right? Like randomizers exist and games with random elements exist, but the idea of building a game around to support and be supported by a randomizer is a little bit hasn't quite been done. There have been some examples of games that came out and then they're like, for instance, there's the spiritual successor to Castlevania Bloodstained. They put a randomizer in their game, and it's great. But it's like I was like, I want to just go the extra mile and see what happens if we design the game with that intent from the ground up, right? But with that, in early access and being a little bit more experimental, I have a whole list of feedback from people that hopped into chapter 2, didn't quite have as successful of an experience that we just saw. And so with that, it's like, all right.
If you have the developer on while you're playing, come on.
So, yeah, exactly. So I have actually a list of, I want to say it's about 7 changes that will be going in. I don't want to give an exact date, but soon. That will actually be making chapter 2 a little bit easier, because I want to make sure that chapter 2, like you just get done with chapter 1. Like I said, it's about a 3 to 4 hour experience, and it's going to be a lot of people's first taste at a randomizer just in general, right? And so I want that to be a little bit more gradual than it is right now, whereas now it's a little bit more abrupt and shocking, and it's still fun and enjoyable. One of the comments that I got was, people always say like the Dark Souls moment starts here type of thing to indicate that, oh, the difficulty has really ramped up. So that was one of the comments that I got. Is like, that's not quite what I'm going for with the randomizer, but yeah. So going back to the, is too much randomization a bad thing? It's like it's something that needs to be balanced and tweaked and tuned, and that's something that I'll be looking at, and have a series of adjustments for chapter 2. Now, when you get to chapter 3, things might be dialing up a little bit more and more as people get more attuned to what's going on with the randomizer and everything like that. So,
wow, it almost sounds like the randomizer is a metagame.
yeah.
It's kind of the game is the randomizer.
Yeah, no, that it definitely becomes the big focus. So one of the recent updates was adding new settings for the randomizer. So we just saw our experience with the experience trainer, and you saw how powerful that is. If you have a bunch of gold, and essentially we had unlimited access to gold in that seed and the experience trainer, you can bypass a lot of the grinding. So some players were like, hey, I don't want this experience. What can we do about it? So once you unlock the randomizer, you can actually change the settings for the experience trainer. And you can say, hold on, I want the experience trainer not to work, or I want there to only be 10 sources of experience training. One of the community suggestions, which I actually took and implemented because it was a great idea, was what if the experience trainer was a one-time use? So you'd pay 1,000 gold and it would give you a permanent experience buff. So now you still have to go and interact with enemies if you have a bunch of gold, but you're not just getting free experience. And I was like, what a great idea. Boom. And so now when you unlock the randomizer, you can go in and toggle those settings. And there's just a few settings right now, but as the game evolves and expands, there's going to be a lot more options that you can tweak with to really make it exactly how you want to play the game, along with everything else that I've designed for the bonus chapters and bonus game modes and everything that's in store there. So,
Oh, I see. You have to complete chapter 2 to open up the randomizer.
yep.
Oh, you're good at that. You find all these ways to make people want to complete it. That's good.
Yeah.
So we talked about randomization. I think you said that somebody had asked if it's possible to end up with a no-win scenario.
So
Items or dungeons, but it sounds like you've pretty much taken care of that, right?
there were admittedly, and there were a couple instances of soft locks that were reported, just because I'm one person. I've tested the game. I've played a ton of seeds, but when you go when there's over 2 billion seeds and potentials and stuff like that, and then when you go from having a beta test group of tens of people to hundreds of people playing, suddenly any sort of quirks or bugs or issues that you might have with the randomization reveal themselves. So there were a couple rare instances where people had soft locked, but within I think a day, I was able to then kind of see what was going on, patch those out, and so that's also part of why it's like early access was kind of the right, in my opinion, the right choice for a game like this, because it's tough. There ends up being a lot of different ways that the items can kind of propagate. You in chapter 1, you had to go through and fight the uncles, right? And they would hold the different equipment, and so in the randomizer they can hold anything, and so that ends up being this edge case that you're like, okay, well, hold on, if the uncles can hold anything and after you defeat one, the other one runs off to the next location, I need to make sure that they can get to that next location for whatever item they might have, and then there's safeguards and checks. So there are things that you have to watch out for. But if I do my job correctly, there should be no instances of a game that you can't win or a game that's impossible or anything like that. Yeah, so I try to keep an eye out, and if anything pops up, that ends up being kind of like my P0 priority one priority to get that stuff fixed for sure.
Yeah, I think it might be fun, especially if you've done it a few times. You'd almost want something that was really disadvantageous to you starting out, right? It's like playing chess, a chess puzzle where you start off in like a really bad position, but that's where the mastery comes in.
Mhm.
Well, even as crappy as this start is, I still think I could figure something out,
So I won't give any spoilers away, but I have a series of game modes that were listed in the trailer, and one of those game modes was called Chaos Mode. So I won't say anything more, but I will just in response to what you just said, say there will be something called Chaos Mode, and we'll see what that has in store for us there.
Attempted to make a joke, but it'd be political. So but just keep moving on. Okay, so we looked at some classes that were easy, or I guess you would recommend, especially for starting
Mhm.
off. But somebody wanted to know what should you do if you want a real challenge?
What equipment should you use for a real challenge?
I just say what class. I assume they're thinking
Hmm.
like what's again, yeah, I guess we could do it that way. Just thinking about standard sorts of classes and what would be
So
something.
I don't know if anything's like, oh, like this is kind of like like because if there was a bad class that was super challenging, it's like, well, we don't want that. One thing that is I think really fun is the dagger and some of the ways that you have to play around the dagger. Now, the dagger is powerful, and the assassin thief style crit build is powerful. But when I think of challenge, I also think a little bit about like, well, being a little bit more cognizant of the game state and what you can do to maximize your advantages, right? The Some of the tankier builds, they kind of just are a little bit more straightforward, where you're just attacking, you're defending, you're healing, and things are just kind of happening based on your strategy of what equipment you've chosen, so on and so forth. With the dagger, there's this really cool ability called three-step strike. And so every third turn, you are guaranteed a critical strike, which is very powerful, right? But the caveat though is that when the dagger doesn't crit, it doesn't do that much damage. You might hit for 0, 1, or 2, and you might be critting for upwards of 20 or 30 damage, right? So you really want to maximize these crits. So if you get to turn 3 and you're like, well, I only have 10 HP. Do I risk it and go for the crit and win, or do I heal? And then you start to think, well, hold on. If I know that I'll crit on turn 3, maybe I should be preparing myself on turn 2 to make sure that I don't have to do some other preparation on turn 3. So you start to play around the turns a little bit, and it gives you a little bit of kind of crunchy interaction. And so I think that that's a fun way to play the game. The crit build is one of my I like a lot of the builds, but it's fun to play around the turn 3, turn 6, turn 9, any multiple of 3. You just want to make sure that you're lining up those crits. So
Yeah, I think just hearing you talking about it makes me want to try it. Just what we were saying earlier. And those boring kind of game, you just, oh, I got a new sword. It does +2 instead of +1, and whereas with this, you go from a dagger to a wand or to the clay, all these various weapons. Makes a big difference, or at least it should
yeah,
if you want to survive.
for sure,
Gotta
for
be
sure.
looking at the way this ability kind of synergizes with this over here. Maybe I should, there's a lot of strategy going on with these item
Yeah.
choices. Really cool. Now, let's see if we got anything else. Different unlockable modes. Do you have a favorite unlockable mode?
So
Randomize.
I try not to spoil anything that's coming up, but I will say two things. One is that the next upcoming unlockable mode, and I'm not sure exactly when it'll be, but it's soon. I kind of say it's on the horizon, and that is clairvoyant mode. And I won't give any spoilers, but if you imagine what would happen if the player was clairvoyant? What would that entail? You can probably guess at what some of the features with that might be. And so the idea with some of these game modes is this is going to provide another way to change how you interface with the game and kind of spin things around for you. So
Yeah, maybe you could see what they're going to do on their next turn or how much health they have. Lots of things that could make it more interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
These are certainly some possibilities. Certainly some possibilities. The other game mode that I'll mention, because it's a little bit more straightforward, is I've mentioned in the trailer there's a roguelike mode, which is very confusing because if someone steps into Splintered and they're like, oh, it's a roguelike, it's like, well, first of all, what even is a yeah, it's like, no, this is not a roguelike. This is a randomizer game. It's like, but it's going to have a roguelike mode. And what that means is there's a splash. And for this one, it's a little bit more straightforward. So I'll go ahead and spoil a little bit of it, not the full details, but a little bit, is that this mode will have permadeath, which will be quite difficult for this game, but it is possible, and it'll have a little bit of that more modern roguelike progression that you see, where it's like, well, when I'm being rewarded, suddenly I have that very like the pick one of three boons or abilities or what have you there. So I won't go into the exact details, but with roguelike mode, that's the intention. Permadeath, and then kind of some of that pick three roguelike style progression, just to kind of give a little taste and add a little bit more texture to the game in the randomizer. And you can choose to play that mode or not. You can choose to turn that on or off. And the whole idea with the challenge modes excuse me. The whole idea with the challenge modes is once you beat them, then you unlock those game settings that allows you to play with that in the randomizer. You can now mix these challenge modes and some of their settings into the randomizer and continue to just have more fun in however you want to have fun with the game. So
That's really cool. I'm just thinking of the possibilities. I got to get through this chapter 2 to unlock some of these things. Well, you already mentioned a few feedbacks you got from folks and that you actually implemented into the game. That's always cool to hear, by the way. I hear some people say, "Oh, I never look at the comments," or "I never look at that," but my goodness. Let's see.
No, I read it all, and I you obviously you can't respond to everything, but I try to do my best, because at the end of the day, I'm a smaller indie dev. No one's really heard of me or anything like that. And so it's like, if they're taking a chance to try out the game, I want to make sure that they're at least that I'm trying my best to meet them and give them an enjoyable experience. So
big thing about, is it just you doing this, or do you have a?
yeah, no, it's just me. Sometimes I have this habit of saying like we, but it's me and my wife, who is supportive but doesn't work on the game. It's just me doing everything. So,
But that's one of the nice things I think about supporting indie developers. If I buy a game from BioWare, I'm never going to interact with anybody that maybe I don't know, maybe I could, but for the average gamer, they're going to have zero interaction. It makes no difference. I'm never going to buy any of your games again, BioWare. So what? It's like, I'm never shopping at Walmart again. Who cares? But if they buy this game, they're supporting you, a real person, and you can actually act on things if somebody does have a clever idea or problem. That you're here in ways that those bigger developers can't.
Yeah, and
plus, for indie versus the AAA.
Yeah, and I have wholly encouraged that. The opening screen on the game is kind of me saying like, hey, like, this is an early access. This is kind of an experimental thing. I want to hear what you think, because it's valuable and important to me. So whether that's through the Discord, or Twitter or whatever, the Steam forums is a great place where there's a lot of suggestions and feedback. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Where do people go to talk to you about it?
So the Discord is probably the fastest turnaround, and then the Steam forums is great as well. Yeah.
If I can find, what's the name of the Discord?
Let's see. I'll have to pull that up real quick. 1 second. 1 second.
Splint. It's probably not. What's dot and make? Nothing like
Here, I'll get the link. I think I've got a link handy. Because the link is on the Steam page, and then I can.
Oh, it's on the Steam page. Okay.
Yeah.
Then Discord is the best place to provide. Oh yeah, you see it right here. I mean, this is funny. So your game is only $5, and you still offer a demo for some. Decide if $5 is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, break people.
Yeah, I've actually
do
been
the 5 just to support somebody. Feedback.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see the. You got quite a bit of Steam discussion here. What in the world?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, feedback and suggestions thread.
And I do my best to respond to all of it, especially if somebody has like a direct question or concern or anything like that. And then sometimes there's people just like chatting about the game, and then it's like, yeah, just that's always fun too. So.
Oh, must be great for you. I don't know. Do you enjoy it, or is it like, oh god, they found another bug?
I mean, when there's a bug, especially in that first day when there was that one soft lock, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm immediately doing this kind of triage of analysis of like what's gone on, what are the what are the statistical odds that this is happening to however many people, how didn't I catch this, so on and so forth, right? And fortunately, everything has been very very uncommon or even rare. So it's like, okay, this is not affecting a ton of people, but even if it's affecting 1, 2, or 3, I want to make that right. So it definitely gives me a little bit of a jolt of like, oh no, like I need to address it. But ultimately, it's like the game is now better, right? Like every week that I add a new patch or an update or whatever, I'll give you a little not necessarily a sneak peek, but the next patch that's coming out, I've got it slated for Saturday, is a balance patch, right? So it's going to have some balance changes to some equipment that's maybe underperforming a little bit, and I want to make sure that people that enjoy that equipment are having it kind of live up to their expectations within the balance of the game. So yeah, it's like every week the game gets a little bit better and a little bit better as I kind of march towards release. And that happens because of the feedback, right? Because people are like, hey, like a lot of people complained about Ledriel's armor. And I was like, hey, Ledriel's stuff is supposed to be like good, not great, right? Like you can slot it into any build and it's going to get you by, and that's great. But when I looked at Ledriel armor, I was like, this thing sucks. It's like, okay, this needs a little bit of help, something that's a little bit more interesting than what's going on. And yeah, and that's due to a lot of the feedback and suggestions and bug reports and everything like that. So yeah, every week the game gets better and I feel great. And it's actually a fun part of development. I've really enjoyed it. So
you always think with those armors that you find around, I always like the idea of going to a store in the game and buying the new armor. Because if you kill somebody, well, their armor didn't work too well.
That's a great point.
I want the new stuff. Now, don't give me this beat up. Yeah, it sounds like you've been really busy on this. Do you have plans for a sequel or another game project?
Lots of plans. So when I was talking a little bit about the origin story and how it's like, I created the first prototype back in 2018, and then I was like, okay, cool, but I need to figure out how to make the base game just nice. Like essentially the chapter 1 that you just played, it's like I need to make sure that people enjoy that experience so much that they want to open up chapter 2 and that they're not disappointed, right? So that's part of how then the idea kind of is like, let's just let this marinate a little bit. Let's bring forward the ideas that are going to make this special. And that's kind of how I like to develop. So in terms of, do I have ideas for what's coming next? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a lot of prototypes and things like that, just kind of marinating and getting ready. But right now, I mean, getting Splintered to a proper full release with all the chapters and the bonus game modes, like that's my top priority, top focus. And part of that is also getting a Japanese translation. Recently, right, so this would have been about a month or so before release. We the game got picked up on Japanese Twitter account, and I've actually kind of written about this. I think on Reddit, I made a post about it, and the amount of support that I've gotten from people in Japan has been overwhelming, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like there's all these people that have, wishlisted the game and are excited about the game, and I was like, oh, I really want to do my best to return the favor and support them, because they have been supporting me, and then providing a Japanese translation. So I've got kind of my work cut out for me to bring Splintered to that 1.0 finish line, and so I'm focused on that. But in terms of ideas percolating around, they're certainly there.
You just have to learn Japanese, and then you can. I think it would be that hard to translate this game, because it's not like you have to deal with the voice acting and fussy puns and poems and stuff. I mean, it should be relatively straightforward, I would think. To
Yeah.
I mean, you'd obviously want to run it by a Japanese person, and
So
knows the language really well to catch howlers, but yeah, I don't think it would be that tough.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting, because part of the work that I have to do is actually with the way that I like set up the files for localization and getting some of that stuff right. So some of it is just like, me in the engine, where it's like work that like no one's really going to ever see, but it's just getting ready to make sure that when you toggle from English to Japanese, or eventually if there end up being other languages, that it slides that in correctly and is in the proper margins and width. With this 8-bit text at the resolution that I'm at, sometimes I'm worried about overflow. I think the divine intervention ability was kind of overflowing outside the box. So like I'm a little limited on space and stuff, and I want to do a proper job. Fortunately, this game, like, it's a text-based RPG, so there's lots of text, but it's not like it's this, Baldur's Gate 3 has a ton of text, right? We're not doing that. So I have a little bit of leeway there, which is nice. But I also want to make sure that I do a really good job at providing an authentic experience, especially with like some of these abilities get a little bit complicated in terms of how they interact and what they do. So I really want to make sure that I nail that. So I have a couple translation services that as soon as the files are kind of ready to be like I've done that work on the engine and stuff to prepare it for translation. I have a couple professional translation services that I want to use, because I do want it to be as high quality as I can, because again, it's like it's like the amount of support that Splintered received from Japan it was incredible, and it meant a lot to me, especially as an indie dev, where you're just trying to it's like, will anybody want this game? And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is incredible. So I really want to provide the best possible translation that I can for the game. So.
I agree. I mean, we've seen the problems of bad translation with some of these games growing up, right? You don't want that. I mean, maybe you could be like, here's what it feels like, but no. Well, I think this is good. I appreciate you taking some time, to talk to me about all this. And I do.
Thanks.
You're almost ready, right? There's probably only a few things you need to put in to go from early to full.
So I've got it planned.
I did notice, by the way, one thing you just probably going to hold you back. So I'll give you this for free. I noticed that there was a lack of a certain creature in the game. Do you notice? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you hoping that there was like a rat-like duck? Yep. Maybe a dragon rat.
I can send you this. You need me to send you this? That was my only nitpick with this. I love the colors. I'm like, you would probably come up with a really fun kind of rat too. I don't think you. I mean, you wouldn't just call it rat. I mean, you would have some way to make it clever, right? That, like all the
Yeah, yeah.
in
Some
game,
some sort of dragon based. So yeah, with
right?
early access, I'm looking at 3 to 6 months, and this is so today is week 3 after our early access release, right? So time is flying by, but we're also or rather I'm also pumping out a lot of or as many updates and stuff as I can. So yeah, no, it should be pretty smooth to get in there, but it's indie dev. Sometimes things happen, things come up. You never know. But I'll be working really hard to try to hit that 3 to 6 month timeline and really make it a special kind of 1.0 release with that. So
You'll get there.
yeah. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on. Like this has been a great honor. Like when I have been watching so many of these videos recently, and it's incredible to see so many developers that I have looked up to on this, and then to be here having this chat. Thanks, appreciate that.
That's what I do this for, so people can, listen to the legends and learn from them. And if I was an aspiring developer, I would love to watch those, right? Try to to glean whatever insights you can, especially for a project like this, because you can see like what were people. I don't think I have any Dragon Quest folks on, but like you listen to the Rogue.
Yeah, Glenn Weechman.
Which,
Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah.
yeah, you probably got some insights from that, right?
Yeah, no, and
it's just cool. Like you love the genre. Here's one of the pioneers. I mean, that's
I thought it was so funny because it was a while back, and you had asked him about it's like the term roguelike is so like I've heard somebody describe Diablo 2 like a roguelike, and it's so funny because with the indie wave of roguelikes now, it's like that problem has 10x to a degree from what it was before. Like it's just very heartwarming to see this occur with respect to Diablo 2 now, and I was like, oh man, what a great cut.
So you got a definition of a roguelike. You defined it earlier, right? You got a special.
Well, okay. I
would also say that you also have Diablo likes. At least I would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but trying to nail the roguelike. I mean, I've even seen platforming games called roguelikes. And I'm like that. Huh?
Yeah, no.
Because there's some kind of random element doesn't make it a roguelike.
And so, okay, collecting my thoughts because I wasn't quite prepared for this, but
What I put you on
the way that I say it is this, right? Where it's like, yeah, I think I'd mentioned it's like a 40-year-old game of telephone, right? Because when Rogue comes out back in the 80s, and then that kind of advances, and yeah, people start associating random elements with Rogue, and so you have like, it's like, well, is Diablo 2 a roguelike? And it's like, well, not really. And then there's games that are like Rogue, right? And that's like, oh, this is definitely a roguelike because it's like Rogue. I'm trying to think of a good example. One of my favorites was actually Dungeons of Dreadmore. That was a fun game that was a little bit more kind of classically like Rogue. And then you have the indie wave that happens, right? To me, that's like Spelunky, Binding of Isaac, Faster Than Light. And now it's like, okay, we've taken roguelike and we've extracted it even further. And you could make arguments that we're still a little bit closer there, short runs, randomization, no runs ever the same, bite size, that type of thing. And then it's like, okay, well now that indie movement launches the next indie movement. And then we've got the Slay the Spire roguelike deck builders. We've got Hades, super popular. It's like now we're mixing all this story into our roguelike, and it's like this, fun action RPG type thing. And that's great, right? And so the definition kind of gets broken to where it's like, okay, we're not even in the realm of roguelikes. And if you make a game that's like Rogue, you almost have to now call it like rogue, right? To where it's like, because roguelike is just like this, almost this amorphous thing now. And then you have people that tried to even use roguelite for a while, and it's like, well, that means it's a roguelike, but it has meta progression, so it's a roguelite. And it's like, okay, well, hold on, because now what happens when I Google roguelike, I get a top 10 list of games, which are like the Hades, the Slay the Spire, that type of stuff. And these games have meta progression. So they're roguelike. It ends up just being this thing where we've maybe, in some ways gained an understanding of like what like the general audience considers a roguelike, and we've maybe lost some of that nuance in the definition. But I'll leave. I realize I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but I'll leave it with this. If you're an indie developer, roguelikes are it's a really popular genre. So if you've made a game that's a roguelike, but it's not like Rogue, it's more like Slay the Spire or Hades or something like that, or Vampire Survivors or something, then it's like, even with that definition being kind of like what it is today, it's like, well, at the same time, you're trying to market your game to the general audience. And so like whatever we think of the definitions and how they are, it's like at the end of the day, it's like, well, when this is what people anticipate when they hear roguelike, that kind of takes over, because we want to describe our games in a way that people are ready to understand what they are and then kind of consume that. And so it's just kind of like, well, as you know, because it's like 10 years ago, I remember people arguing vehemently about what a roguelike is, what a roguelike isn't, that stuff thing. And then the roguelites get brought in, and now it's just kind of like, well, we just kind of have to like as an indie developer, when it comes to trying to get your game noticed, it's like there's an expectation of what a roguelike is now. And that's kind of what we have to go with, because that make sure that the people that have the expectation and match that with your game are kind of making that match. And if you've made a game that's like Rogue, then maybe that's the way to call it. I don't know. I'm probably rambling at this point, but sorry.
So I had the same problem trying to define computer role-playing game. Even more basic than that. I think you're right to sort of zero in on the idea of, okay, I did a game, Splintered. Okay, what kind of game is it? You got to have something that you can tell them, so they'll be like, oh, okay, oh, so that, okay, and now they start to get an idea, and then they can decide whether to buy it. Now it's not going to be exactly like something
and
else.
I want to be very clear here. Splintered is not a roguelike,
it's a randomization. How do you randomize?
So I've been calling it a randomizer.
A randomizer
game. Yeah, because the last thing that I want is someone to play a game like Slay the Spire or one of these other very, very popular roguelikes, and then if anything about Splintered said roguelike other than the roguelike mode that I'll be adding, that's why I don't use it any sort of like marketing or branding or anything like that. Is like nope, because as soon as people have that expectation and then they get to chapter 2 and they're like, what is this? That's the last thing that I want, right? So Splintered is a randomizer game, not a roguelike. But you can imagine that as I'm heading up to the early access release, I'm like, how do I explain to people what this game is? And that there are always difficulties with that, for sure. So
yeah, you should be good. I was just looking at because I think Steam will let users define the tags for the product. So I was worried that it'd be like roguelike. But no, it's RPG, JRPG, turn-based. It's kind of interesting if it's a JRPG.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, how does you define that exactly?
That's I don't know where that definition kind of like comes from and like how that works, like what the standards are, but at the same time, when people look at something and they see something that reminds them of some of these 8-bit RPGs they grew up with, they're like, there's something about it. They're like, that's a JRPG. The way that all the mechanics work and comes together and the visual layout and everything like that. So it's like, okay, all right, that sounds good.
Yeah, if it looks like another game. This comes up a lot, I think, too, in when you're trying to write novels and things, and you're
Mhm.
the only thing you can do is say, well, it's kind of like this and this and this,
Mhm.
and just
Mhm.
hope. But yeah, I love the genre stuff. I like the messiness of it. Like is The Legend of Zelda a role playing game? Is Mad Max science fiction?
Uh-huh.
You know, yeah, some people go off on or space opera versus science fiction. I don't know, but anyway, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks again for all the time here, Richard.
Well, thanks for having me on. I
The
really
game. I
appreciate
don't know
it.
if I'd have been able to beat it without you. Something about having you on there just made the difference.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and hey, good luck with chapter 2. I think you're off to a great start. So.
Yes, we do.
And that's all for this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Sorry for the delay. I don't know if you can tell, but still dealing a little bit with this creeping crud that seems to be creeping about St. Cloud. Been sneezing and coughing and congested. It's just not been a pretty picture over here for about 2 weeks. This thing is really persistent, but I felt, hey, I got to do this episode, so I'm just going to power through this. Hopefully this crap will go away and I can start putting out these episodes on a more regular basis. So thanks for your patience. As always, I want to thank you very much, not just for your patience, but for supporting the show, keeping these interviews and episodes coming. Matt Bradley, Shurgi, and I greatly appreciate and need your support to keep these episodes in production. So, if you like the show, why don't you go to that link in the show notes to the Patreon page. Take a couple of seconds, 5 minutes tops, set up an account there, $1, $5, whatever you're comfortable with. Just go ahead and do that. Join us on Discord. You'll have a great time, and you'll get even more satisfaction from watching the show because you will have helped make it. So thank you. Big thumbs up for everybody who's already done that. And if you haven't, please do so. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just comment. I'm sorry. You can support the show in other ways like commenting, liking it even. Subscribing, sharing it with friends that you think might be interested in these topics. So whatever it is you do to support the show, look, we appreciate it. So once again, thank you. All right. Now, what about that news from the Matt Cave? Got a lot of news. That's one advantage of sort of spacing these episodes out. We get no shortage of news. Let's see. Got Miko with a couple items here, as usual. Clair Obscur, I think that's how you pronounce that. I hope I'm not butchering that. Also called Expedition 33, has become a breakout hit, selling over 1 million copies in just 3 days. This is from a French studio named Sandfall Interactive, a dark fantasy JRPG. Earned critical acclaim. Even French President Emmanuel Macron praised it as a shining example of French audacity and creativity. Pretty sure he didn't say it like that, but hey, I'm from Louisiana. I can do a French accent if it comes down to it. But anyway, check that out. It looks pretty interesting. I might have to do an episode on that. It looks pretty cool. And then Wartales, one of my favorites from recent years, they've got a new DLC out called the Beast Hunt. And it's all about beasts. A new region called Briga, a harsh barren land south of Ludern. Fresh challenges, formidable beasts to hunt, new gameplay elements to explore. You can go into Briga to face the new threats, enhancing your experience with additional content and adventures. Looks like a pretty solid expansion, so congratulations to those guys. Might have to check that out as well. But what everybody's talking about is this next item, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remaster. So this was recently launched, April 22nd, quickly surpassed 4 million players. This is developed by Virtuos in Unreal Engine 5, with 4K visuals, updated animations, a revamped leveling system, and includes Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles expansion. So I guess they had a few bumps getting this released, but it's all well and good and honors the roots. And they even went, Bethesda even went so far as to give the Skyblivion mod team free copies of the game. So that's pretty cool. I love to see that. I'm really a big fan of supporting the modding community and not trying to buck them or just shut them down, but actually, acknowledge their contribution. So that's really cool. And then finally, another little item I just thought I would throw on, since it's been a while, a little bonus item. Shunjinkou. If you're like me, you might know next to no Japanese, but it looks cool. You've always kind of wanted to learn it. It would be nice, so you could play all those JRPGs that haven't been translated, or maybe play them in the original language, or watch anime, or whatever it is you want to do. There's a lot of reasons to want to learn Japanese. Well, now you can do so in a dungeon crawl. This is an innovative indie JRPG combining traditional dungeon crawling with Japanese language learning. Control 3 protagonists battling creatures that consume language, integrating vocab and grammar lessons into the gameplay. Both an educational tool and a deep RPG experience. So that sounds really cool. I love it when you can play a game and also learn something useful outside of the game. It's even bonus. So that's pretty cool. Shunjinkou. So check that out. Let me know what you think. Is that all? I guess that's it for the news. I feel like I'm forgetting something important. But anyway, maybe it'll come to me. Let's wrap it up with a quotation, though. So this is a quote by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, another Frenchman. It goes something like this. Randomness is not the absence of order. It is the presence of a higher order we do not understand. Little Jean-Jacques Rousseau for you. So ponder on that, and I'll see you guys next time.
What on earth was I drinking last night? My head feels like there's a Frenchman living in it.